Hi, it's Michael Jeffries, and once again, I want to thank everybody for their kind comments about my videos. I've had several requests to do another one, so here we go. I just won, tied for first place actually at the Santa Monica Bay Chess Club in the top quad. I was the lowest rated player. And I won, tied for first with this game. This was my third round game. It was 3 games, and we met for 3 consecutive Monday nights. And this game was against Bob Sale, who at one time was over 2,100 apparently, and now that he's getting up there in years, he's down to 1,900. But it's still a nice win because this is the win that got me over 1,800 finally. And that may not be a big deal to some of you, but if you've been stuck under 1,800 for your whole chess career and you've always wanted to break through, I think you can relate. It's just relative to wherever you are. If you're 1,200, then 1,300 seems huge. It's always the next jump. Anyway, let's get to the game. I of course opened with D4. And those of you who've watched my video before know that what's coming next after knight f6. Bishop g5, the Trompowsky, my favorite move, and that's what I played against Bob. He responded with e6 is the move that Andrew Martin recommends on his video, and that's what Bob played. The other most common move is knight e4, and if you like the Trompowsky like I do, the move to play here is bishop to f4, and then let's say they go d5, which is pretty common. You go f3, kicking the knight f6. And now what would you play for white here? Take a second and look at the screen and see if you can figure out an interesting move here. The move is e4, which looks like a blunder because it drops a pawn, but you don't care. It goes pawn takes pawn, and now you don't recapture. That's the trick. You play knight c3, and if he doesn't recapture, you're going to get a great game. So he pretty much has to take on f3, or you're going to take on e4. And now knight takes, and you've got like a supercharged Blackmar-Demar that you've kind of tricked your opponent into playing. And you've got all this great development for a pawn, and you just need to get your bishop out to like c4 or d3 and castle, and you're going to have a fantastic position. So this is a little trick to keep in mind for Blackmar-Demar players who also like the trump. But I played a little different. I played knight d2 after he played e6. And the reason is I want to cover this square here, the e4 square. I don't want, if after he plays bishop e7, he can drop the knight in there. Also, there's another trick I should show you. You can't play e4 if, let me go back here, sorry. Yeah, you can't play e4 here because they go h6, and of course if you're thinking I'll keep my bishop, that's a blunder, because then they go g5, you have to move your bishop, and then you drop the e pawn. And this is kind of a common trap that like beginners with the Trompowsky sometimes fall into. So the idea is once you see h6, you have to take the knight, and it's kind of been shown that white does not get enough for the giving up the bishop pair. The center is not worth it. So anyway, in the game, I prefer after e6 just knight bd2, covering e4, and now I really am threatening e4 because the pawn's guarded, and so he played d5 and just d3, bishop e7 breaking the pin, bishop d3 just getting my pieces out, h6 I just drop my bishop back, knight bd7, and f4, and this is what I call a super charged stonewall. It's just it's a good stonewall. It's better, I think, than the normal stonewall, and the reason is because of this guy. I have the bishop outside the pawn chain. Usually the bishop's walked in here on c1, but here it's actually doing stuff. So I really like this position. c5, and of course we don't take, just c3 to guard our d4 pawn, our strong point. He decides to go queen b6 and hassle my b2 pawn, but not a problem. Just rook over defends. And now he castled. So we know where his king is, so we can just continue building. Some guys try and get tricky and go queenside on me, but right now that's just not possible because of the bishop here is not even close to being developed. So going queenside probably didn't look too good for him. I bring my knight out to its natural square, knight f3, and he's just kind of doing little tickling moves that really don't do anything. Just a3, I don't care. If he wants to attack me with this queen, it's not a problem. He goes c4, and I'm always happy to see that move because that means I get to play e4 free of charge if I want. So I just dropped the bishop back, and now the pressure is off my center. He played rook e8 in case he wants to move his knight maybe into e4, then the bishop doesn't hang. I castle. And now he played b5, kind of trying to get his his pawn storm going over there, but I just didn't see it. And now the crowning move, knight e5, and I've highlighted all these beautiful squares. Knight e5 hits in all directions. It's just a powerful move, and even though the computer kind of gives us an equal position, I think most chess players would prefer white here. It's just a very strong knight, and I don't care if he takes the knight because I'm going to open up the f file and have pressure on f7, and now that the rook's off f8, f7's really vulnerable. So I think this is a great attacking position if you're white. He played queen c7 to stop the fork. He was a little worried about when the queen was here. I was threatening a fork here, maybe picking up the bishop. Although honestly, I don't know that I'd even want that bishop. This knight's such a good piece. But he played queen c7. It also gets the queen out of the way of the a pawn, so he can start to roll that down the board and somehow distract me. Also, you should think about getting that bishop in the game on c8. That was I was thinking that during the game. Like, I wonder where he's going to put that bishop. And that's something you want to do, by the way. You always want to try and anticipate where your opponent's going to put their pieces. So I play queen f3. That's a good move. The computer was thinking maybe g4 was even a little bit more dynamic. I think they're both good moves. So anyway, in the game, I played queen f3. And now I knew that allowed a little trick, and he went ahead and played the trick. But I didn't bother me. This was the trick. Knight e4 is a little trick because if I take his bishop, if my bishop here is undefended, if I take an e7, he has knight takes d2, forking the rook and the queen. So I saw all this when I went to play queen f3, and I didn't really care. But I just had to think what's the best way to play it. And I started by taking the knight, played knight takes, and he played bishop takes. And now I didn't play the best move. The best move here, there's a best move, and then there's an interesting move. I'll show you the computer move. Well, the second line of the computer move, because the computer also likes the best move, obviously, first. But there's this wild line. Knight takes f7 is pretty sick. The idea is that after king takes back, you get this check-in, and the king has to guard the rook. That's another problem with having the bishop on c8 is the rooks aren't connected, and he's got to go back. And then you have this clever shot. Again, this is all computer stuff. The knight is just thrown in there, and if he takes, you get just death on the f file that's open, check to the king, and he's not going to last long. It's just kind of a you get your piece back, and you're going to play pawn to g6 and open up a discovered check, and it looks like it's pretty close to mating, if not mate. So it's just bad. So anyway, that was the knight sacrifice line, but I don't think there's any reason to go crazy here. Let's see, queen f3, knight in, takes, bishop. Yeah, now the best move was queen to h5. That was the best move. And I looked at it, but I wasn't sure about it because this knight here is hanging, and I wasn't quite sure of all the complications. But I did look at it, and wasn't sure. Also if he takes my knight on e5, I had to look at that. I had to look at pawn takes. There was just a lot to look at, and so I just played kind of the wimpy move here. I just retreated my knight. I'm sad to say. And I knew it when I was doing it. It was probably a wimpy move. But my position, this is some psychological stuff. If you just have a great position, I was watching poker. I don't know if any of you follow poker, but Scotty Wynn they were showing the main event last night on ESPN, and Scotty Wynn had a ton of chips. He had like third most chips, and there was 11 players left, and he could cruise to the final table. But for some reason, he went crazy and called like an all-in, or moved all-in with just top pair, and this guy had trips, and he lost, and he just got knocked out of the tournament for no reason. He didn't need to gamble. He was guaranteed to have number 3 in chips, and it was just really sad, and he admitted it afterwards. And so that's kind of how I feel about when you have a really good position. If you're not sure, don't